Welcome to the Holiness Today podcast. On today's episode, listen to a devotional by Audrey Williamson on how faith produces joy from Philippians 4:4. Dr. Williamson was a speaker, writer, and teacher for the Church of the Nazarene and served alongside her husband, former General Superintendent G.B. Williamson. This recording was originally produced for the Ministers Tape Club in July of 1981.
Let us see if we can clarify this matter of joy. We are told that it is the dominant characteristic of the true Christian, and yet how many of us suffer hours, if not days, of darkness and depression when we neither experience nor radiate joy. This very thing produces in us feelings of guilt and defeat, of inadequacy, even of failure. Now, there is a way to achieve. There is a way to be master of our circumstances, to maintain the level of joy that does not dip below our own ideal of constancy. Such a way of life must be learned. Paul said, I have learned in whatsoever state I am therewith to be content. Now, what is joy as defined in the Christian context? Joy is many things. It is a sense of well-being. It is peace of mind. It is contentment. It is a feeling of delight and pleasure. It is the resolution of inner conflict. It is liberty and freedom. I'll tell you what it is. It is a mindset brought about by absolute commitment to God and His will, with perfect trust in His ability to work out His will in us. Life brings us much for which to be profoundly grateful, but it also brings much to batter and bruise us. To keep the repository of joy at a recognizable level, we must fix our attention on something and someone greater than ourselves and our circumstances. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusteth in thee. Trust ye in the Lord forever, for in the Lord Jehovah is everlasting strength, and the joy of the Lord is your strength. In a world sick with sin, it is constant cause for rejoicing that one is delivered from the guilt and inner pollution of sin. We get so bogged down with problems that we lose the exhilaration and the thrill of being made free from the condemnation that sin brings. Daily, we need to remind ourselves of this glorious fact and to share our joy with others. Live in the conscious knowledge of sins forgiven and of a heart made pure. Why, we even sing, redeemed, how I love to proclaim it, with glassy eyes and a frown on our faces. The expectation of the soon coming of the Lord gives us joy. Live in the realization of this blessed hope. Lift up your heads, for the day of your deliverance draweth nigh. In a recent book, Sheldon Van Auken has said, the best argument for Christianity is Christians, their joy, their certainty, their completeness. But the strongest argument against Christianity is also Christians, when they're somber and joyless. Now, our joy can be heightened by a cultivation of those things that bring us a sense of fulfillment. Little self-denials, little sacrifices heighten our joy if we will let them. They can make us feel sorry for ourselves, deprived and unappreciated. But if we will practice the beautiful art of selflessness, we will discover there is more joy in giving than in receiving. There is more actual pleasure in thinking of the satisfaction, the convenience, the comfort of another than of our own. And remember, you spoil it all if you call attention to your thoughtfulness, your generous impulse. You destroy both yourselves and your fellow traveler's joy. Life does put certain demands upon us. We have obligations to fulfill and duties to perform. Family, society, business expect this of us. But Christ gave us a higher law, the law of the second mile. And here is where true joy begins to find itself. It is not how little can I do, but how far may I go. It is the plus that measures the profit. Even so, it is the little misses that make for unhappiness. Ella Wheeler Wilcox has said, it isn't the thing you do, dear. It's the thing you leave undone that gives you a bit of a heartache at the setting of the sun. The tender word forgotten, the letter you did not write, the flowers you might have sent, dear, are your haunting ghosts tonight. Joy should be realized, too, in work well done. A task accomplished, an assignment completed, should bring a sense of justifiable pride. We do not need to wait for recognition from others. Our own inner self gives approval, and this brings its reward. It is more than relief that the job is done. It is the joy of accomplishment. Genuine gratitude is another source of joy. Gracious acceptance of a favor or a kindness brings happiness to the recipient as well as to the donor. Nothing improves the atmosphere of the home as much as an interchange of thank yous and you are welcomes. And nothing so dries up the springs of joy as the lack of such expression of appreciation. A neighbor of ours kept house many years for a brother who required a special diet. She often spent the morning adjusting recipes and fixing appetizing dishes for him, and each noontime he stolidly consumed them. One day, in exasperated despair, she said, "Ralph, I spend hours preparing your food. You never tell me you enjoy it." His reply was, "Well, I'm eating it, ain't I?" Wow! I'm sure she simply bubbled over with joy. Attention to these little things is good, but if joy is to be maintained and to grow and deepen until it becomes the dominant characteristic of our lives, it must have a broader base. It must come under the control of the will. Listen to the abrupt and forceful commands of God's word. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again I say, rejoice. That's a command. Fulfill ye my joy. Let all those that put their trust in thee rejoice, and let them also that love thy name be joyful in thee. My soul shall be joyful in the Lord. That's determination. It shall rejoice in his salvation, because thou hast been my help. Therefore in the shadow of thy wings will I rejoice. These and many other passages indicate that joy is related to purpose, to determination, to the will to rejoice. We hold in our own power the capacity for defeat or victory in this area. It's up to me to be happy today. No one can take my joy away. It's not in the weather. It's not in things. It's my heart that glooms or frets or sings. I could make or mar a perfect day. I could make a life or throw it away. It's up to me. But this is not merely an endurance contest, a battle of the will, a broadening of our horizons, an awareness of the loveliness that is all about us will enlarge our capacity for joy. Sunshine, fresh air, the benediction of rain, the glory of a sunset, the majesty of the mountains, the surging sea, all these can heighten our joy. The marvelous world of nature can nourish the soul with joy even as food sustains and strengthens the body. A few weeks ago, we were riding our horses out in the shadow of the Rockies. We'd come down the lane and out into the meadow when suddenly both horses stopped abruptly. We looked ahead, and here came 3 antlered bucks running toward us at a distance of a quarter of a mile. So fluid were their movements, so perfectly coordinated, they seemed effortless. Together, they sailed over a 6-foot fence as though directed by an invisible choreographer. And then they discovered us. There was a sudden stop. After a brief pause, again as though responding to an unseen director, they made a right-angle turn and went leaping away toward the foothills. It was breathtaking. And what happened to my joy? It rose spectacularly. Beautiful, significant, exciting, wonderful things happen to us every day if we're only aware of enough to recognize them when they come.
Thank you for listening to the Holiness Today podcast. If you enjoyed this production and wish to hear more, visit holinesstoday.org/podcast or find us on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts.